let's get back to our DIY accounting system. So in this video, I'm going to create a validation for the settlement transaction number column, which is the bank transaction reference in English. It is very important to make sure that the settlement transaction number cannot be duplicated. Otherwise, you will mess up your cash records. Okay, so let me press and just go all the way down to the last column. Before that, I just create a new column, call that settle trans num validation valid. Okay, so let me enter the formula for the settlement transaction number validation. There are two conditions to be met. Let me go up and enter that. If two conditions are met, then we enter one. We let the user enter a settlement transaction. Otherwise, we return 0. We don't let the end user enter the transaction number. So usually, I will just put a dummy condition 1 and condition 2 here. I'll enter, just to remind myself the structure of the formula. So the first condition is we have to have a valid transaction number, which is either an invoice or a withdrawal transaction, right? So we have to let the individual transaction number validation, which is this one. It has to be a valid transaction, right? And we use a count if formula, to ensure that no duplicate in the settlement transaction number column. So inside the count if range, we have to select the whole transaction number and we have to get rid of the @ sign so that we can select the whole column. The criteria is the individual row of the settlement transaction number. So that when the whole count if, oh, you know what? I have to enter just to make it easier to read. So when the whole count if is equal to 1, that means the individual settlement transaction number only appears once along the settlement transaction number column. That means it's unique. Then we will let them go through. So let's press enter. Since we didn't enter any settlement transaction, all of these are 0, right? Let's say if we enter 1 and we enter the settlement transaction number again, the same settlement transaction number, then we will get 0. But if we get rid of the duplicate, then the first one is true under the settlement transaction number validation. Let me just get rid of that. Press Alt-DL to bring up the data validation. Allow custom. And the formula is simple. We simply select the first cell of settlement transaction number validation column, and this one has to be equal to 1. And then you press OK. Control C, Shift and down arrow to select the whole column. And then right click, paste special, and then paste the validation. Bring it out, press escape. Let me enter some settlement transaction number to test our validation. Let's say if I just enter settlement 1, I can go through because the settlement transaction number validation is 1. Let's say if I enter it twice for the second one, then I should expect a validation to prevent me from entering a duplicate. So that means our things work. And let me test one more condition. Let's say if I don't enter any transaction number and then I just enter a new settlement 2. Ding. I should expect a warning because I don't have any invoice for my settlement transaction number to match. We can go ahead, Ctrl S, save it. Let me add a conditional format like what we did for the transaction number. Okay, OOD. I can simply apply, just press a semicolon and then add this row. Just select the whole row and then apply. Okay, let me just enter a same one, then I got the warning. Good. So save it and we will work on the rest of the settlement interface in episode 20. Thank you. Bye bye.